Hey, it's Nikki Thompson, and you're listening to Tea with Nikki, embracing your sexual energy. And today is a very special episode. Today is the last episode for 2020. Now, I don't know about you, but I remember growing up thinking the year 2020 is going to be the year that we're flying around in like these cool little spaceships as cars, and that we're going to be like living above the planet, like living above Earth, and just like had like a Jetsons kind of vibe to 2020. That's kind of what I thought was going to be happening when I was a kid, because it just seemed like it was so far away. And now we've just finished the year, and I have to say it was the most tumultuous year ever. And I know that's not just for me, in both good and bad. And today what I wanted to do was share my top 3 lessons of 2020. And I think for me, this is quite therapeutic as like a closure for the year, because it was such an epic year. So much changed this year. And I just want to kind of close it out with a summary of what happened this year for me, what I learned. I really wanted to share the things that I learned this year about myself, about the world, and get ready for 2021, because I feel as though this is just going to be next level all over again. So I'm going to share my top 3 lessons. I would love for you to come and follow me on social media. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook with Nikki Thompson, Nicky. And I would love for you to share what your top 3 lessons of 2020 are, because I want to know what other people got from this year, because it wasn't all just shit. I feel like there was so much change happening and so many shifts happening, and seeing people, like I remember at one point during like movement restrictions, I'd never seen so many families out walking together, and everyone seemed so happy. It's like everything slowed down to just be with family. Now, of course, that's not the case for everybody, especially if you're living alone. Or if you were living in Victoria, in Australia, because lockdown was really, really harsh. That's not what was happening here in Queensland. And, you know, not everyone's going to have that experience. So I'd love to know what your experience of 2020 was and what your top 3 lessons, I guess, are. Come and share them on social media, or you can email them, nikki@nickithompson.com. That would be awesome. So my very first lesson is that everything, the thing that I learned was that everything changes all of the time, both good and bad. And, you know, getting super depressed about something that's happened is not pointless, but we don't need to stay in that state, because shit is going to happen and it's constantly changing. It never stays really shit, but it also never stays really good. It's kind of like a constant up and down like flow, like a roller coaster. That is really what life is. And for me, I felt like I had this beautiful security of a job, this job that I've wanted. Like, it was the most incredible job, and I got made redundant this year, and it just threw me. It threw me so much, because I had so much of my identity was around doing this particular job. And I felt like, you know, the friendships I'd made at this job, and, you know, just a reason to get up every morning. Like, I felt as though it was such a shock. You know, I don't think anyone was kind of expecting some significant changes in that company. And everything changes. And it really floored me, but it also made me realize I can't stay upset for long. You know, I have 3 young children, and I need to keep moving forward. And, you know, it doesn't stay shit for long. It also doesn't stay great for long. It's always just up and down, and it's about being in the moment, enjoying the moment, and seeing. For me, I'm always such an optimistic person, so I'm always looking at the silver lining. And for me, that silver lining was that now I get to go all in my business. I hadn't been able to go all in because I didn't have enough time essentially to do that. I also felt like the content that I'm doing is all about sex and sexual energy and orgasms and pleasure and, sharing this big, beautiful vision that I have of shifting the taboo of women's pleasure. And I felt like I didn't want to do that while I was still working in a company because I felt like it wasn't essentially aligned with their brand. And I didn't want to fuck that up. So I couldn't really go all in while I was still employed. And I feel as though unless it's a very, very progressively open sexual company, I don't feel like any company that kind of really aligns with. And as an employee, you've got to, essentially be the face of your company. You're always the face of it, especially with social media these days. So, that was a big lesson for me. Everything does change, both good and bad. And I'm always the optimist, always. So I'm like, okay, that is the biggest sign for me to just go all in. And I did. I went all in and I don't regret it. Like, I think the parts that have been difficult is it's very lonely working from home. So I've been finding ways to kind of shift that, making a more proactive goal of meeting new people, meeting businesswomen, meeting other people just day to day and making those connections. And again, everything changes in a good and bad way, is that my youngest child finished kindergarten this year, which means she's at school next year, which is full-time, 5 days a week. And I haven't had all of my children in school in 5 days a week for 10 years. So I've never had that kind of full-time opportunity, that 5-day a week energy and space to get super creative and really make some shifts. So, good and bad, I'm going to miss the shit out of her. But it's the next chapter for her and for me. So lots of things have changed for 2020 and definitely moving into 2021. The second lesson of 2020 is that I am so much stronger than I ever realized. I've gone through a lot over the past, life. Life is hard for different reasons. Life is great. My life is amazing. I fucking love my life. But, this year really tested me. And it made me realize I'm so much stronger than I've ever realized, and that I can totally 100% rely on myself to get through shit and to take care of my children no matter what's going on. I think one of the things that I struggled with previously was I always had this belief in this story I tell myself that I'm not great with managing money. And I think, we always have these money stories that get passed on to us from our parents and the way we were raised and whatever's going on. But, doing my finances since being divorced a couple of years back or separated a couple of years ago, it's been, I guess I've had to really rely on myself, trust myself, and I've been nailing it. I'm super pumped to know that, everything is covered. I'm not stressing day to day for money, which is such a great feeling because it's a new feeling for me, because for such a long time that was the case. And so I, again, am stronger because for me, I needed to eliminate that negative money story. I knew I had to eliminate that negative money story because I was going to fuck myself over. And I didn't want to have that, single mom stereotype or story placed on me, or absorb that story, that single mom struggle. I didn't want that. So I knew that I didn't, I'm going to shift that. I'm not going to make that be my reality, and it's not. So that's a big one. Being stronger than I ever realized in just little things. The other day I changed the gas bottle, which was something I'd always call up someone to come and do for me because I just I'd never done it. I thought I'm going to blow the house up. I'm going to do all of these things. And it seems so insignificant, but for me it was massive. And now I can do that myself and that feels good. I've never mowed a lawn and, I got someone to show me how to start the lawnmower. And I'm not going to lie, I mowed part of the lawn and thought, shit, this is just not in my genius zone whatsoever. I'm still going to pay Gary, my gardener, to come and do that. But, I tried these things and I'm happy to continue to pay him to do that. Other little things, decorating the house at Christmas. My mum always made Christmas super, super special. And for me, it always just seemed really difficult. It seemed overwhelming, and I always liked to keep it simple, and I've definitely kept it simple. However, I bought more decorations this year to really decorate different parts of the house, like the hallway and the entryway and the dining table, and as well as the tree, to make it feel that extra Christmassy specialness that my mum used to do when I was a kid. So, Christmas is a really difficult time. My mum passed away about 12 years ago now. And it was always her thing to make Christmas beautiful and special. And I really want to continue doing that for my own children. And this year was probably, I next leveled it. I don't spoil my children with gifts. They get one present from me, one from Santa. And I like to stick to that kind of rule. That's what they know. But it's beautiful. We do lots of fun things. We do some trips. We do lots of time at the river. We just spend a lot of time together, and that's what I love. So that second lesson of I'm stronger than I ever realized applies to so many things that I just felt so overwhelmed with before. This year, I'm like, fuck that. I don't want that to be my reality anymore. I'm going to shift it, and I have. So that 2020 kind of all of these shifts and changes and world changes has helped me to shift a lot of things in my own life as well, which is awesome. And there's just some new awesome things happening in 2021, which I'll share about next year. Lesson number 3 is that I've realized that not everyone's going to like me, even when I was kind of editing myself, putting the mask on and being the happy, smiley-faced Nikki that didn't swear, didn't drink, didn't do all of these things, and just was like the nice girl, the good girl. And I realized not everyone liked me, even with that version. So why keep that going? I feel as though I have stepped forward so much this year into my real version of myself. I love talking about sex. I think it's one of those things that I always admired other women really embracing their sexual side, getting, dressing sexy, talking about sex, having great sex, all of these things. And I really admired that they were just going forward and doing that. And I was like too shit scared to do it myself. And so now I don't edit myself in terms of trying to be what I think other people want me to be. I just don't minimize myself or make myself feel smaller. I don't quieten myself in terms of not saying what I want to say. I still have social graces. I still have, a standard of morals that I have for myself. Whether that suits you or not is irrelevant. But I still feel like I'm a very respectful person. But I'm still going to share who I am and what I'm about. And I'm still so passionate about other women really embracing their sexual side, whether they talk about it on a fucking podcast or they just are wearing sexy lingerie at night with their partner, or they're buying, a great vibrator that works for them. Whatever stepping into their sexual side means to them, that's what I want, because I feel as though women's pleasure is just such a big thing that we've just we shut it down, we lock it down, and everyone is telling us that it needs to be a secret, it needs to be locked away. And this year has been for me as like, no, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to wear what I want to wear. I've always tried to to lose weight and be smaller and all of this kind of stuff. And this year I've really embraced my body. I've always been the same. Like I'll be bigger and then I'll lose weight through a lot of restriction, a lot of exercise, a lot of this. And then I get sick of it, or, I have got a pelvis injury from having my first child that will, be exacerbated by certain exercises. And then all of a sudden I can't work out anymore. And then I start eating more because I'm feeling depressed that I'm not sticking to this, really restrictive regime. And then I start gaining weight again. Then I feel depressed. And it's just like this epic cycle that just goes round and round. And I know that now this is my beautiful, beautiful body, and I'll wear things that make me feel good. I always felt as though I had to hide my tummy. So I'd wear clothes that are bigger than, make me look even bigger, essentially. And now I don't do that. And now I enjoy wearing beautiful jewelry, big jewelry. I love wearing big jewelry. I love wearing a little bit of makeup. I love doing my hair. I love wearing heels, like all of these things whenever I feel like it. And I was kind of scared previously about stepping or being too girly, being too feminine. And I spoke about this in one of the trainings. I think it was in the Vibe program. And I spoke about how we can often be scared, or we have these negative stories about being too girly, being too feminine. And that's something we need to work on, because when we have these negative stories, they're holding us back from being who we really want. And I'm not saying that you need to be getting all dressed up and wearing big jewelry to be girly and be more feminine. That's not it. But for me, I really wanted to do that, but I felt like being too feminine, too girly. I had this negative belief that being too girly meant that people are just focused on what I look like and not how my mind works. And I've always been quite proud of how I think and my intelligence as opposed to my body. And so I felt like, if I'm getting too dressed up, if I look too feminine, people won't take me seriously. People won't, they'll think I'm stupid and all of these kinds of things. And it's like this story, this belief that I held on to since I was a teenager, and let that one go. But it took a bit of work. And now for me, being my real self is getting dressed up, feeling pretty. That's how it feels good for me. For other people, it might look like, not wearing a bra, or wearing a fancy bra, or wearing, the most beautiful clothes, or whatever it is. But for me, it's just about listening in to what I really want, as opposed to what everyone thinks I should be doing. So these have been my biggest lessons of 2020. And so although we're not flying in these little hovercrafts in 2020, I feel like I've made massive, massive changes to my own life, to my own beliefs, to my own standards of the way I live my life. And I'm really proud of myself for that. And I'm super excited for all of the women who have been listening. I'm so grateful for everyone listening. We've hit over 1,000 downloads since the podcast came out a couple months ago, which is really exciting. And I know this is going to continue to grow. So I'm really grateful for you tuning in. But I really am excited about more women tuning in and listening into their own sexual energy and finding out who they really are, and then having the courage to go and live it. That's what really excites me. So just a quick recap, my top 3 lessons of 2020 was that the first one, everything changes all of the time, both good and bad. The second one is that I am stronger than I ever realized. And I feel like everyone can say that, because if we've got through 2020, you are stronger than you've ever realized, because this was just a lot was thrown at us this year. And if you're still here, then yeah, that one, I think everyone can add that to their list. And number 3 is that it doesn't matter, not everyone's going to like me when I'm editing myself and being who I think other people want me to be. So I may as well just be myself and enjoy that and be that. So they are my lessons. They are my 3 lessons. And I would love for you to share your top 3 lessons of 2020 over on social media. Send me an email, whatever it is. You can find all of the details in the show notes of this episode. And I just want to say, I hope you have the most incredible 2021. I just am so grateful that you're listening and looking forward to all of the cool things that are going to happen. All right. I will chat to you next year. Bye.